everybody. Welcome back to episode 76 of Talkoffamepod podcast with your host, Kylie Montigney. I'm so to have on writer and reporter Erica Francis. Thanks so much for coming on, Erica.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you are a writer and reporter. What made you want to start doing that and basically being in this kind of film industry entertainment?
So I actually got into this my sophomore year of high school. I've always been a performer. I was a singer, a dancer, an actress. And so we had this class called West Ottawa Broadcasting News. I thought, oh, that would be so much fun. I get to be on TV. I get to give the announcement. So I signed up. And then obviously I started the class and I started thinking, wait, this is so much more than I ever expected. I got to be behind the scenes, controlling what the newscast looked like. I got to get behind a camera and start telling people stories. And that's where I really found my true love for storytelling and writing. And I kind of just thought to myself, heck, it's either I go on Broadway and, sing and dance for the rest of my life, or I can really make an impact in somebody's life. So I stuck with it and I went to Central Michigan University to pursue my career, and here I am.
Yeah, I love that. Like, that's kind of how I was. I was like, oh, I'm going to pursue something else at the end of the day. Like, you just kind of turn out to be like something you never kind of expected to be. Like, at first you were an actress, singer, and sophomore of high school, and now you're a journalist, writer, reporter. And like, personally for me, I never expected to like do this. I was like, oh, I'm probably going to do something else, like, I don't know, acting or something. That's something random. But I never expected to kind of do journalism in this type of way. Like, did you kind of ever kind of expect to be like a reporter, writer type of stuff? Because for me personally, I was like, I kind of imagine doing this right now. It is so hard.
Looking back, before that class, no, that never even crossed my mind. It was always, oh, I want to be famous. I want to be a singer or a dancer, something along those lines. And once I did that class, like I told you about, it really just shifted my thinking. And then I was introduced to it. So then once I was introduced to it, I thought, well, this would be such a cool career path. And the more I got to learn about what it meant to be a journalist and a writer and a news anchor, I was just so inspired by it. And I really found a passion. And like I said, I kind of just stuck with it. And now looking back, it's like, wow, here I am. I did it. Never expected to be where I am now, I'll tell you that. And now I'm curious, I've got a question for you. How did you start this podcast? Because I think it's so incredible what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. So it all basically started back in quarantine last April. And I come from two journalists in my family that are basically working from a local news station down here in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And I'm really close to one of them. So I'm like, always love what she's doing. I always want to do whatever she does in terms of what like running or whatever she wants to do in terms of anchoring. When I see her on TV, I was like, this is pretty cool. I kind of want to do that. But in terms of me, I've always wanted to be in the entertainment industry, but I didn't know really what I wanted to be. And this is something I kind of didn't think I would do because like I was always a very shy kid. So I was like, how is a shy girl supposed to have a podcast? Like, how is that supposed to be possible? And so back when quarantine started, I was like, well, I kind of have more thought about it, and I kind of sat down and I kind of got really bored myself because all I was doing is on my phone 24/7 watching television, stuck at home because we couldn't really do anything, so we couldn't leave the house. So I was like, I'm done being lazy. Like, I just want to do something with my life instead of being lazy 24/7. And so I was like, why not just start a podcast and talk to people in the industry and athletes and all these things to kind of just see if I like it, just try it out. You might never know if you like it or not. And so it's always worth trying, no matter if you don't like it. And so I started last year back in April, and with Cooper Soros, he's a podcast host with Blue Jays pitcher Ross Stripling. And after that episode, I was like, this is amazing. I think this is what is for me. I think this is something I really want to do in the future, and I wanted to really do this.
Isn't that awesome how life works out like that?
Yeah, it does. Like, it is one snap and just like change your life. Like, you in sophomore year of high school, you just did one thing and this snaps and you started to love it. That's kind of how it happened for me a little bit. Like, you fell in love with something out of your control, basically.
Good for you. I loved hearing that story. Thank you for sharing. That was good.
And so I wanted to ask you, like, when you were like a reporter in like your sophomore of high school, like, did you were you always a person that loved being in front of the camera, or were you always a person that was like, oh, I like the back behind the camera the most, like directing or being in charge of the food?
So I feel like it shifted because when I started, I wanted to always be in front of the camera. And that's, I mean, looking back now, I was like, oh, that's so vain. And I hate saying that, but that's the reason I started. And then a few months in, that's when I really started to find the love for the behind the scenes, like being behind a camera and getting, you know, really up close shots of something that the human eye normally wouldn't see is so incredible. And to just create something that's fun or inspiring or makes a difference, you know, with your words and the images that you're capturing, that's what I truly love. Like, yes, I'm still in front of the camera, but that's by no means the best part of the job. And this is not a glamorous job like it seems. That's what I always tell people when they ask. Like, it just looks like lights, camera, action. It's so easy. It's so perfect, but it's a lot of hard work. It's very stressful. There's a lot of behind the scenes, and you got to grind to get it done.
Exactly. Like, that's what happens for me. Like, people think that journalism reporting is so easy. Like, you think like, oh, you just gotta figure out questions and all that stuff. It's like so easy. I'm thinking to myself, like, that it's not easy as you think it is. Like
no, not at all.
In terms of like a podcast or being a reporter for a news station or something, it's very difficult because you need to actually prepare on something. You need to learn the facts about the person or the project you're anchoring on. It's like you need to actually be prepared on what you want to do, because if you're not prepared, then kind of screwed. You kind of don't have anything to prepare, and that's how you will be a good journalist. Is if you become more persistent with your work and become more prepared with your work, then you would become successful. Like, I don't know how to speak in a day, but like, it's like that's what it is. Like, if you are persistent with something you love, you need to grind, not listen to what other people think. Every position that you do, no matter if it's like acting, like business or something, it's always it's very hard, no matter what position it is.
You freaking just nailed that. Yes, that was so good. And you can never care about what other people say, or like if somebody says, well, your job seems easy. Well, then great. You can think that. I know what my job truly is, and if I know I'm making a difference in the world, that's all that matters to me, right? Other people's opinions, we don't care.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So you are currently anchoring for WKRN in Nashville. What is it to report and anchor for them for now, since you started that for a bit ago?
Okay, so I started here 3 years ago in June of 2019, before the entire world shut down. So I report during the day. I come in at 9 a.m. and then I pitch my story every day, and it's obviously a new topic every day, but I do tend to gravitate towards real estate and growth stories and economy, business, stuff like that, business consumer stories. So I'll pitch my story, come in at 9, then I start getting my interviews, and then we put the story together. I go over the 4 p.m. newscast, then I anchor the 4 p.m. newscast, which is an hour long, and then I'll type up my web script, because of course not everything is on the television. We've got to make sure that these things are getting posted on social media and our website, wkrn.com. So there's a lot of different moving parts, but it is really cool to be both a reporter and anchor, because I still get to have that creative side of me, and I get to go out and meet people and get that writing aspect in, but at the same time I get to hang out with my co-anchor and tell the viewers what's going on in their world when I'm anchoring the newscast. So I really love having to do both of those.
Yeah, for sure. What was the hardest kind of part for you? Like, what's between anchoring and basically writing all these things? Like, how did you kind of balance trying to do something and other? Basically, for me personally, with editing journalism, it's very hard for me. So I kind of wanted to know what your take was on how you basically balance all these things at once.
Practice makes perfect. And when I first started this, it was very daunting, and it was hard to manage my time, because you only have 8 hours in the day, And there have been times where certain people can't do interviews until noon or 1 p.m. and you're scrambling to get a script to the editor by 2:30 because I had to go over the show that I anchor. So certain days, unfortunately, I'm not able to go over my show. I just have to write my story and what we call cold read my scripts. So I'm still working on it as well. Like nothing's ever going to be perfect. I'm still learning. But I have learned to manage my time a little bit better. And like I said, really, it just comes with repetition. And then you just feel more confident and comfortable with things. And I know I need to get my script in every day around 2. So then I have time to get ready for the 4 p.m. show. And I have time to read over scripts and do my web articles and all of that stuff. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
You really you got to take some time and just the repetition. That's what helped me.
Yeah, that's kind of how mine was. Like at first, it kind of started it was kind of hard for me to deal with because at first I'm dealing with editing, interviews, school, and all of these things that go on in my life. I'm thinking myself how I need to get this thing done by 3:00, and my interview's at 4, and I need to go to the baseball game or something. It's always something that's going on, like you said. And so you think you need to cold read and type things up quick, so you need to get things done. And what was the hardest part for you about basically doing all these things at once and basically doing all these things in terms anchoring and writing and trying to do all these things at once and that?
I think the hardest thing was firstly time management, but now that I've got that down, I think secondly, the thing that I struggle with is we don't always have enough time to create the perfect story. You know what I mean? I wish I could take 3 days to create a story sometimes. I'm not given that. And I'm a perfectionist, and I know that. So I have to tell myself it's okay if a story isn't the best thing in the world, as long as you're accurate and things look decent and you're getting your words across in a way that people understand. It's gonna be okay. With all of this going on in one day, every day, I started to get a little down because I noticed that sometimes I was rushed and I wasn't able to write the story the way I wanted to. But one thing that my mentor told me is that if you have 3 good stories or 3 good days out of 5, you're winning. So I try to keep that in my head always. You're not always going to have a perfect day. You can fail certain days, get back up, try again, and make tomorrow a better day.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. And since being a journalist and everything, do you have anything specifically you like to do in terms of being a good journalist? Do you have anything specific that you do in terms of preparing for an interview or preparing to anchor? Do you have anything you kind of prepare for?
So when it comes to preparing for interviews, I obviously make sure that I know the topic and I know who I'm interviewing. Certain journalists like to write down questions and what have you. I don't like to do that because I feel like it takes away from the genuineness of the interview and the conversation. And of course I do my research, but I don't do too much research because I think if you know too much as a reporter, you forget to ask certain questions that other people might be wondering. So if I have a genuine question as a reporter, I feel like the answer comes back in a way that gives me information that the viewer would want to know. When it comes to preparing for my show, of course, when I have time, I try to go over every single script that's in the hour-long newscast and make sure that everything's typed out in a way that I want to say it, everything's spelled correctly. We don't have live interviews unless there's crazy breaking news, but we don't have live interviews in the newscast that I anchor. But if we did, I would have to prepare for that as well. Know the topic, know who I'm interviewing. There are times where we cover trials, and if we know that there's going to be a verdict in the trial, I always make sure to write down the background of what happened in the trial, who's on trial, what they did, or what they allegedly did or didn't do. I make sure I have all those circumstances kind of bullet pointed out because we ad-lib those things when we're going to the shot. So I've got to look at those bullet points and say, okay, so-and-so is on trial. the jury is deliberating right now. This is what we know. We're waiting for this. Because sometimes you get in these predicaments where you're having to ad lib for minutes on end. You're like, oh no, I'm running out of things to say. So when I have that information in front of me and I'm prepared for what could happen, that's always a saving grace, because there have been times where I haven't been prepared and it ain't pretty. So being prepared is important. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so like there's so many like of course things that you anchored over like with over stories like trials, example, maybe like Johnny Depp trial that's been going on, for example. That I have another podcast as well. So me and my friend always cover all these trials and everything that's going on and everything. So like out of like all the stories that you kind of covered, what kind of story that kind of sticks out to you the most? Like what kind of gets you excited when you see the story?
The stories that excite me the most are the ones that can really inspire somebody or like make somebody smile. And unfortunately, we don't get that a lot in the news, but I always try to find a character for my stories, and just one person can make your story so much better. Call them the character, and the way that they speak and the funny things that they say, or maybe it's an emotion that they have, and kind of writing to that emotion and writing to that character. That's what I love doing, and creating stories that it's like beating the odds stories, if that makes sense. So like back in Grand Rapids in my first job, I used to always do health stories about these people that were diagnosed with these crazy diseases. And then, they beat the odds. And it was just really cool to inspire our audience, just like explain what this certain disease was, what they need to know, how they should treat somebody who might have that same disease. And I don't know, it just kind of lit a fire under me, and it made me smile when I saw the story come to fruition.
Oh my God, that's literally like my favorite part too. So like when I get to talk with you and so many other people, like that's like my favorite part, because like whoever listens to this podcast, that I know like my mission for this podcast is something I really want to do is inspire other people to do the same.
Yes.
As a young girl in Pennsylvania, and I have too many role models. I never saw myself on screen on television. I never saw myself. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I never saw people kind of like me as a kid. And I was like, why not do that for other people? And why not just do this for other people? Because like I didn't have that as a child. I didn't see myself. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I never kind of thought about what exactly wanted to be and everything. So I'm like, why not do that for young girls and women? Because I didn't exactly have that. And like it would be better to help other people, because like if other girls and women, even men don't feel inspired, then this is kind of my job to help other people with my guests and what they do and help them feel inspired, even though they want to be like a journalist, actress, model, baseball player, you name it. Like if you want to become some of these things, then watch this podcast and you'll find some people and you'll feel inspired.
Oh, I'm so proud of you for doing this podcast, because even if you change one person's life or you help one person, it's totally worth it, right? I always tell people, dream big and like freaking follow those dreams, and don't ever let anybody tell you no. So I love that you're having these same thoughts at just 15 years old.
Oh my God, thank you.
You know what's going on. You're smart.
Oh my God, thank you. And so do you have anyone that you look up to as like a journalist reporter, or just kind of in general? Do you have anyone that you look up to?
So I really love Robin Mead. She is just a little spunky newscaster, and I just love how she's totally herself. She doesn't fake it. But she like sells the story, and I really feel like I'm just having a cup of coffee with her and she's telling me the news, and that's what you're supposed to do as a news anchor. I also really look up to Dana Perino on Fox News. I actually met her in person in Nashville, and she's the nicest human.
Oh my gosh.
So nice. Yeah, so she was really humble. So it's cool to like watch her on TV now. Oh my God, I met her. But she's the same as Robin. She just tells you the news, and it's so chill, and she's not fake. She just acts like a friend in a way, and that's what I really hope to emulate and do that. in my career as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's so many people that are like journalists that do not like, sometimes fake and not fake, and always say the truth.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
there's so many that are like, oh, this is not facts, and like I think myself like, then you need to do research a little bit more about it. Like, this is how journalists and reporters supposed to be, and like
Right.
the person that kind of stuck out to most to me as like a journalist and all these stuff is the old press secretary Kylie or something like that.
Yeah.
And I really look up to her so much. Like I watched her so much as she was press secretary. I still watch her now on Fox News a little bit.
She's awesome. Mm-hmm.
And like she is really amazing at what she does. Like every time I watch like an interview of hers or something, a briefing or something, I'm always in awe of her because like she's really amazing and always gives the facts, always shuts people down when they're wrong, and always speaks her mind. And there's not a lot of people like that. And I was like,
agreed.
When I watch, I'm thinking to myself, like, I want to be like that. I want to become like what she does and actually speak my mind and do all these things. And
I agree.
She's really someone that's really making an impact on people.
Of course, you have to be careful with, the networks and national. They're more able to speak their mind than we are on a local level because we've got to be right down the middle and we can't really just blurt out our opinions. But I agree. As a woman, you want to be strong and you stick to your guns and share your opinions with others, even if it's not in the workplace, just like every day having a conversation with anybody. And I think what you just said is something really important to keep in mind.
For sure. So the final question is, what is some advice for younger generations that want to be a journalist reporter one day?
I think my biggest advice is going to be, again, dream big. Don't sell yourself short. People are going to tell you no. Keep pushing. But I also don't, I always want to take a step back because I'm like, well, some people might not really thrive in this industry as well. So know when to take a step back when it's appropriate. This industry is really hard.
Yeah.
And like I explained to you earlier, it is not glamorous by any means. So girls that are going to get into this industry hoping that they're going to get their makeup and hair done and everything's going to be written for them and they're just going to be on camera every day, that is so far from the truth. It's a lot of hard work. Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of grinding and you're doing a lot of things on your own. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress. You got to come up with the story ideas. You got to make sure that this is really your one true love. Like you're really passionate and dedicated toward the career, or I think it's really going to be a struggle for certain people.
Yeah.
So I guess all in all, my biggest advice is figure out what you love. Do it. Don't let anybody tell you no. Keep pushing. You're going to fail. Get back up. Try again. And just keep in mind, nobody's perfect. Every day is another opportunity to learn something new. And as long as you're continuously learning and growing and getting better, and you're doing what you love, you're on the right track.
Exactly. Like, no matter how hard the thing is, you got through it. Like when I first started out, I personally thought this was going to be the easiest thing ever. I was like,
really?
I really thought that. I was like, this thing's gonna be so easy. Like, I just have to do an interview, ask a couple questions, edit. Like, I thought it was gonna be the best thing ever. Yeah. And now I think to myself, like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, oh my gosh. Like, it's so hard. Like, I literally have to do an interview, ask questions, edit.
It's a lot
on my own. As a 15-year-old girl, doing all these things on my own, I do not have other people to do this for me. Yes. And so I personally have to do this all alone. So I'm thinking to myself, like, this is so difficult because I have to do this as a work, as a hobby, I like to do, and at my personal life, like, what's the time with my family, going out with friends, and doing all these things. I think to myself, like, how am I supposed to balance all of these things that really matter to me the most? And that's something that I had to struggle with because, like, sometimes I'm thinking to myself, like, God, I wish I could actually have more time to go out and do something for myself.
I get it. I totally get it. That was me in college. I didn't have a lot of free time. But looking back, I'm glad that I worked so hard because now look where I am and now look where you are, right? So it paid off. And that's what's important. Like I always told myself in college, there will always be another party, but there won't always be this great opportunity to help me thrive in my career.
Exactly. Oh my God. I really
Mm-hmm.
that. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was so
You're
great to meet you.
welcome.
You're so awesome. And
Oh,
we'll definitely speak soon for sure. Thank you so much for coming on. It's so
thanks for
great.
having me. This was fun. I appreciate you. And
Of course.
keep doing this podcast, okay?
All right,
Keep it
absolutely.
up.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.